All right, in our next video, we're going to learn how to squat. So depending on where you're at, they might have a particular style of squatting, or maybe the coach has learned in a certain way, but they prefer that squat. For me, whichever way that doesn't hurt your hips is the way that you're going to squat. A lot of squats will depend on your hips, okay? So a lot of things depend on your bone structure, and you can't change that, okay? So a lot of people who, I guess, get taught, for example, the way I got taught was I had to have both my feet facing forward and push my knees out. When I squat in that position, it's not too bad, but I do get a really tight feeling, comes from the side of my knee, wraps around and down towards my ankle, and it doesn't feel too good. After a few, it's going to start clicking and causing a lot of pain. So for me, I have to angle my feet slightly out. My knees still travel out. It's just a much better position for my hips, all right? That's the way that they prefer. So for some people, you're going to have your feet facing forward. For some people, your feet are going to be angled out. What matters is our knee position in relation to our toes, not so much where your feet are, okay? The knees are the most important part. We want to keep the knees nice and safe. So we want to make sure that our knees are traveling out and over our little toes, okay? We don't want them traveling over our big toes or closer. So for example, if we're in our squat position, we're pushing our, collapsing our heels, our knees are kind of pushing in. This is going to be a surefire way to give you knee pain. So what we want to make sure we're doing is we've got our knees tracking over our little toes, all right? Your depth will depend on the mobility of your hips and your ankles. That's okay. We'll get there in time. The more you practice, the lower you'll be able to get. The more you work on hip and ankle mobility, of course, the lower you're going to be able to get. So if I do it from a side position, we want to make sure that we're coming down as low as we can, keeping our back nice and straight. The way I like to cue it is just make sure your chest is upright. If I have something written on my shirt, you should be able to read it at all times. If I'm facing the floor, it's not really much of a squat. It's more of a deadlift. I want to make sure that I'm sitting my butt down towards the ground. But at all times, my chest is up. To help us with our squat, we want to make sure that we breathe. So from that bottom position, as we're coming down, we're breathing in. From that bottom position going up, we're breathing out. Comes down. So you can really use your hands to kind of swing back if you need to. And really push those hips forward. This is not the finish of a squat. This is the finish of a squat. Make sure we're squeezing our glutes. So from this bottom position, squeeze the glutes. Stand up, all right? So those are the three most important things. Number one is how you stand, making sure your knees travel over your little toes, not over your big toes. Second thing, making sure you're breathing. Third thing is locking out at the top. To do all those, you must be using your heels, not the tips of your toes. So just one last pointer. Every time we do our squat, it comes back and it pushes up all through our heels. All right, so the heels of our foot. We don't want to be up on the toes. We don't want to be kind of coming forward into this position. It's also called a yoga squat. There's a time and place for that. We want to make sure as we're doing a regular squat, we're pushing through those heels all the time. That's how we squat.